And now for balloons in the news, a rebrief special report. Balloons flew over the annual Nevada Day Parade Saturday. Nevada Day is a holiday that commemorates the founding of the state of Nevada on October 31st, 1864. The Nevada Day Parade is an annual festival celebrating the event in Carson City. On Saturday, thousands gathered to celebrate, and among the festivities, there was a balloon launch at 6 a.m. Hot air balloons, including one sporting the logo Remax to advertise for the Remax real estate company. Although the festival is over, ending with a trash cleanup this morning, there will be trick-or-treating on Halloween night, which includes trick-or-treating at the governor's mansion. The governor of Nevada, Joe Lombardo, and his wife, Donna Alderson, will hand out trick-or-treats to children at the historic mansion. North Korea dropped propaganda leaflets and trash on Seoul. On Thursday, the Presidential Security Service in Seoul reported that balloons sent from North Korea dropped trash on South Korea's Yongsan presidential office, the office and residence of the country's president, currently Yoon Suk-yeol. At the same time, balloons also dropped propaganda leaflets in Seoul attacking President Yoon Suk-yeol and First Lady Kim Kyung-hee. Excuse my pronunciation. According to Al Jazeera, Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, said that South Koreans dropped rubbish in North Korea earlier in the week. She was quoted as saying, quote, "The reckless infringement upon the sovereignty of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea by the Republic of Korea military gangsters is a hideous military provocation that can never be pardoned," unquote. This latest incident comes after numerous previous instances since May in which Pyongyang has dropped leaflets in South Korea, responding to South Korean activists dropping leaflets in North Korea. North Korean balloons also previously dropped trash on the presidential compound in July. Taiwan unveiled a new tethered high-altitude balloon. Taiwan's Ministry of Digital Affairs unveiled a new tethered high-altitude balloon on Thursday. The balloon will help restore communications after a disaster. According to Taipei Times, the Minister of Digital Affairs, Huang Yen-noon, said that this is only one of multiple solutions to restoring communications in Taiwan, a country which is prone to natural disasters. The balloon was developed through a collaboration between the Technology Research Institute, the National Taiwan University of Science and Technology, and the National Taipei University of Technology. It can reportedly reach an altitude of 800 meters, remaining in the air for 2 weeks, and provide coverage for 380 square kilometers. The balloon was unveiled at a ceremony in the Luye Highlands of Taitung County. And now for balloons, a flying menace, Part 2. There's no place like balloons. In 1914, actress Pearl White got the starring role in a new adventure movie serial called The Perils of Pauline. While many people today might watch a silent movie serial from 1914 and find themselves bored to death, back then this was the bleeding edge of mindless entertainment. People loved movie serials and would return to the cinema again and again just to find out what happens next. And Pearl White, a young actress already experienced both on stage and in standalone movies, was adventurous in real life. It was only natural for her to star in her own adventure series. 1914's answer to whatever it is the kids are watching nowadays. Her new role as an action star also challenged the stereotypical fair maiden characters popular till that time. She was a new type of star for a new era. Sadly, during the shooting of the very first chapter of The Perils of Pauline, disaster struck. In this episode, the heroine Pauline only intended to go for a joyride at the fair, but according to historical records, the story goes that her safety line is cut by a villain and she is set adrift. But for this sequence, Pearl White was filmed in a real, free-floating hot air balloon and was caught in a storm during the shoot. That's right. This would have been one of the earliest depictions of actual human flight in a fictional film, where someone was filmed literally flying as a practical effect. This wasn't just a simulation of flight, but the real thing. Pearl, along with a balloonist hidden in the carriage, were startled to find the weather turn as they drifted over the Hudson River from Palisades Park. Immediately, they got caught in a storm. The subsequent tragic events were later recounted as followed by the sole survivor of the incident. Quote, "About 10 minutes after we were cut loose, a sudden storm broke. It was April, and this was a good old-fashioned April thunderstorm with rain, wind, lightning, and all the trimmings. I don't suppose it lasted over 20 minutes, but they seemed to me like 20 years. We were drenched to the skin and half frozen. In order to rise above the storm, we threw out ballast and got up to about 5,000 feet. Then, when the storm passed and we wanted to come down, we found that we were over New York City. We did not dare to descend there. The balloon might land on the edge of a 20-story building and tip us into the street. For 3 hours and a half we were in the air, most of the time over the city, although once we were carried 2 miles out to sea. But we didn't dare to come down in the water, of course. Most of this time I was busy tearing a long roll of tissue paper in pieces and dropping them over the side of the basket. As they fell, they would show in which direction the currents of the air below were moving. There seemed to be different levels on which the currents moved in different directions. At first, we would throw our ballast in order to rise, or would let some of the gas escape in order to descend. In this way, we jockeyed around, trying to get into a current which would carry us to a safe landing place, but we couldn't make it. Finally, all the ballast was gone, and to complicate the situation still more, the bag was leaking gas. We had settled down until we were only about 1,000 feet above the roofs of New York, and were slowly sinking still nearer to them." Unquote. Wait, did I say these events were tragic and there was only a sole survivor? My mistake. Those were lies. I was lying. The incident wasn't actually tragic at all, just harrowing, technically speaking. Both Pearl and the balloonist in the carriage with her finally made it down safely. And yes, that quote I just gave was, of course, from Pearl herself. Pearl White, the heroine of 1,000 Stunts. She survived to tell the tale. Not only was the first chapter in the Perils of Pauline saga successfully shot, but the whole series was a hit and had 20 chapters in total. White even went on to star in various other popular adventure serials throughout the 1910s, often performing her own stunts, up to and including other aerial feats. Riding in a little basket under a giant unsteerable balloon sure seems dangerous. One is moved about entirely at the whim of the winds. I'd imagine this was especially the case over 100 years ago when they didn't have so many pesky flight regulations to, protect people from dying and whatnot. But how dangerous is it nowadays? Well, there are certainly ballooning accidents, even in modern times, and these do result in the passengers tragically losing their lives, in fact. In January of this year, 4 people died and 1 person was injured in a ballooning accident in Elroy, Arizona. The National Transportation Safety Bureau, or NTSB, who you may know as the same bureau who investigates the causes of tragic airplane crashes and uncanny airplane disappearances, also investigates ballooning accidents. According to their investigation, this accident was caused by an issue with the balloon's envelope. In February, in the country of Georgia, 2 balloonists and a TV operator died after their aerostat collided with power lines. Colliding with power lines, as we'll soon see, is a hazardous running theme with balloons. According to a study of ballooning accidents between 1964 and 1995, there were nearly 500 such accidents on record, involving over 1,500 people. These resulted in 92 deaths and 384 injuries. According to NBC News, the NTSB reported 16 deaths caused by ballooning accidents between 2002 and 2012. This is really low compared to many other types of deaths, like, for example, car accidents, heart attacks, or, say, war and genocide. And while there was a slight increase in balloon accidents in the last few decades, this may change. In 2016, a balloon pilot caused the deaths of 16 people in a single accident after crashing into power lines near Lockhart, Texas. 16 people, the same total number of people who died by similar causes between the years of 2002 and 2012. Now, when the NTSB investigated the crash, they found that the pilot failed to cancel the flight due to low clouds and fog, even while other pilots in the area did cancel their flights. He continued the flight through clouds and fog, and then he attempted to land the balloon near clouds where it was hard to see the landing site. What's more is that the pilot had also taken drugs before the flight. According to USA Today, he had taken so much Benadryl that his blood alcohol level was the same as a drunken driver. He had also taken dextromethorphan, a cough suppressant found in over-the-counter drugs like Robitussin. The NTSB also found that the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, had failed to discover the pilot had a history of drug and alcohol convictions. As a result, in 2022, the FAA adopted new rules that require hot air balloon pilots to carry a medical certificate. In March, a hot air balloon hit power lines near a highway in Rochester, Minnesota. While the balloon flew off and drifted for a few miles, the basket tumbled to the ground with 3 people inside. Fortunately, nobody was seriously hurt. A similar accident took place in May 2019 in the Napa Valley. The balloon clipped a power line in Yountville, and 3 of the 19 passengers aboard sustained electrical burns. 1 passenger had to be flown to the hospital. The balloon was operated by Balloons Above the Valley, a company that has been investigated by the NTSB for this and other incidents with their hot air balloons. Later that month, a balloon operated by Wine Country Balloons in Santa Rosa took off from Sonoma County with a planned landing in Napa County, but was carried by unpredictable winds into the Mayacamas Mountains, where it landed hard, again injuring 3 passengers. Here is a video of a similar accident that happened in Southern California in 2022. Hot air balloons are big business in sunny California, with the highest numbers of balloon rides in the country. As I reported last November in Ufos episode 4, Stephanie Quick, an occultist with mysterious ties to UFOs and a resident of Napa Valley, complained of hot air balloons regularly flying extremely low over her neighborhood. But this problem has never actually been resolved, and she continues to decry these low flyers as a nemesis from the skies. Whether they were sent by the Greys or they hail from Magonia, these balloons are a menace. They cannot be controlled by their pilot, but are ultimately controlled by the wind. And in the Napa Valley, winds are unpredictable, so balloons require chase crews of people who follow them on the ground to try their best to ensure a safe landing. But ultimately, where a balloon goes and what it does is only up to the weather. Any serious injury is a serious injury, and no death of a person can ever be taken lightly, even if it's just one person, even if they're a jerk. Some balloon pilots and even whole companies can be reckless and should be monitored and regulated. But at the end of the day, compared to threats like cars, wars, and geopolitical conflicts, hot air balloons just aren't that dangerous. I don't mean to write off what Stephanie proclaims while shaking her fist at the heavens. I'm sure if I was in her dapper shoes, I'd do exactly the same thing. However, we must consider the balloon threat in reasonable proportion. All told, there are far more worrisome things in this world than hot air balloons, and most people who fly in them just have a good time. So, what's the big deal, you ask? Or maybe you don't ask that, I don't know. It's just what I'm imagining. In any case, believe it or not, it's the balloons who carry no passengers, well beyond perhaps hitchhiking bugs, who are a far greater threat. Be they little balloons released by children or giant ones released by meteorologists, be they sky lanterns with small fires inside or just balloons full of helium, they are a threat. There is no pilot checking the weather, no crews on the ground tracking their progress and trying to ensure a safe landing, so they can wind up doing all sorts of things, seemingly all on their own accord. As I discussed in the first part of this series in Ufos number 12, it's these sorts of balloons who are also most likely to be spotted as a UFO, like quite possibly in the Amaranth UFO close encounter case I mentioned, or the infamous Middle East object that I discussed. A number of high-altitude balloons have led to mass sightings of alleged UFOs. The first alleged UFO sighting by British ufologist Timothy Good was a part of a mass sighting of a flying pyramid that first hovered over Hertfordshire and then drifted over Greater London in England. 2 jets were sent to investigate, one from the RAF U.S. Air Force Joint Air Base at Bentwaters and one from the de Havilland Aircraft Company. Neither was able to reach the object due to its extremely high altitude. While Good rejected the explanation that this object was a balloon because other similar objects sighted in the 1960s failed to be identified, I'm inclined to say, what? Why? What do you have against more likely explanations? As UFO debunker Philip Klass argued, meteorological balloons sent up by the French space program in that period could remain relatively stationary for days at high altitudes. Balloons were also the culprit again in 2 other mass sighting cases from central Chile and a month later over Buenos Aires, Argentina, during a wave of UFO sighting reports across large portions of South America in 1985. According to an in-depth study of these events by Luis Eduardo Pacheco, these sightings were caused by special high-altitude weather balloons called Montgolfier infrared or mirror balloons, again launched by the French space program. But high-altitude balloon sightings can also carry with them their own special hazards. In another case from September 5, 1968, thousands of people reported witnessing a flying pyramid over Madrid, Spain, which resulted in a huge traffic jam. An F-104 jet was scrambled to intercept the object, but similar to the case in England, when the jet flew to over 50,000 feet, it had to return for refueling. And again, this later turned out to be a French meteorological balloon. About 15 sequential hat tips in a row to Jeff Knox for the research he did on these various cases, as well as Luis Pacheco. But so what? Mistaking a balloon for a UFO is not in itself a threat, right? Even if it causes a traffic jam. True, but it can be pretty dangerous if you're a pilot, I suppose. In 1948, 2 separate cases of pilots chasing alleged UFOs were also likely caused by weather balloons. The first of these cases, in January of 1948, involved an ice cream cone, or parachute-shaped object, floating over Fort Knox, Kentucky. 4 P-51 Mustang fighter planes were dispatched to check out the object, pursuing it to 22,000 feet. The planes were not equipped with oxygen masks. So, while 3 of the Mustangs stayed behind, flight leader Thomas Mantell continued pursuing the object on his own. Then, eventually, like a modern Icarus, he flew too high and died due to lack of oxygen. This case was later explained by, as local monkey man Joseph Matheny put it, quote, "Ahem, skyhook. Thank you. Good night." Unquote. During this period, the US military started using high-altitude balloons both for scientific research and to gather reconnaissance over the Soviet Union. As I talked about in the first part in this series, the US Army Air Corps was using instruments attached to balloon trains to see if the Soviet Union was testing nuclear weapons. At the same time, the Office of Naval Research was using massive high-altitude balloons that were developed by General Mills. These skyhook balloons would inflate into giant orbs in the upper atmosphere, but at lower altitudes, the air inside the balloons would gather at the top of their envelopes, while towards the bottom, the balloon envelope would taper into a vacuum. So at different altitudes, these balloons would resemble a parachute or even a giant ice cream cone in shape. In all likelihood, Mantell died in his pursuit of a balloon. In another case, in October of 1948, pilot George F. Gorman saw a small blinking object while flying at night near Fargo, North Dakota. He attempted to chase it. He said that the object would rapidly shoot away from him at times, and at other times shoot towards him so fast he had to dive to avoid it. However, it may be that Gorman's own perception tricked him into thinking what he saw was a UFO making sudden maneuvers, when in reality he was experiencing various parallax effects. This is when the size and distance of an object are misinterpreted. If an object is thought to be far closer or farther than it actually is from an aircraft, then it may appear to pace a pilot or even move rapidly towards or away from them, when in reality it's moving slowly or not moving at all. And the distances and positions of objects in the sky can easily be misinterpreted. See, for example, the lunar terror case from Poland, which we discussed last week. These types of illusions are not only common, but they can potentially explain many alleged dogfights between aircraft and UFOs. Gorman could have easily witnessed a small weather balloon with a blinking light attached to it. But unlike Mantell, Gorman did not die. So while a balloon can pose a real danger to a pilot just by being there in the sky, death by chasing or engaging with a balloon is, in all likelihood, an extremely rare event, much rarer indeed than the already rare death by hot air balloon accident. But people don't even have to do anything for balloons to pose a real danger. Oh no, they are in fact far more dangerous than any Cash Landrum diamond. In all truth, they are far more menacing than any vampire saucers that use energy beams to suck the blood of their victims in Para. Indeed, these phantoms of the sky will not be stopped by any military operation, and no weapon or army on Earth is even remotely equipped to stop them. Oh no, my friends. All a person has to do is let go of the balloon. Then it can do all damage all on its own. Not only do such terrors from the sky commonly disrupt electronic equipment and create massive physical traces on the ground from their horrific, smoldering damage. Not only do such objects create eerie lights in the sky and large-scale devastation, even killing animals in massive numbers all at once. Oh, and they do. But a balloon can travel to any destination. It may become a transmedium object. It may even shapeshift into a mothership of sorts and let loose countless smaller flying objects. Even invisible flying objects. Indeed, a person doesn't have to do anything at all with the balloon, but to make it in a factory somewhere. A balloon can just be manufactured and not even be inflated with air. And even still, as though using uncanny powers of time travel, its fate is one of destruction, either in the here and now or in the far, far future. Yes, a balloon may still travel, propagate smaller versions of itself and force its death and destruction upon the world through subtle and uncanny acts without even being inflated. Far in the future, long after you hear these words, long after the term UAP disclosure has not only lost all pretense of meaning, but has been completely forgotten by the survivors of any dystopian revelation. Balloons, who have never been bought or sold, may travel through the substrates of our physical reality and bring their punishments to bear upon humanity and life in general. Whether you like it or not, humans may go extinct entirely, and yet still balloons will be there, wreaking havoc with only the hands of the earth itself to guide them. And yes, I can prove this. This is not some poppycock cribbed from the pages of some crappy paperback written by Donald Kehoe, spewed from the mouth of some false whistleblower. Indeed, there is no defense initiative or secret counterintelligence operation who even cares about this issue, let alone is even remotely equipped to deal with it. Words and memes may break my brain, but balloons, they are each and every one objective objects. And all of these bombastic claims that I have made are facts which can be demonstrated. One doesn't need FOIA requests to figure that out, though granted, they would likely be useful in uncovering some military secret or nefarious plot involving balloons. But be that as it may, the balloon threat as a whole is a purloined envelope, a dystopian secret that is right there, in plain sight. And balloons, they are just the tip of the iceberg. As dangerous as they are just the portent in the sky, a sign of things that are so much, much worse. It's in our skies, it's in our waters, it's in our very earth. Like some golem sent to help us, the threat of balloons has gone completely out of control, wreaking havoc and destruction everywhere they go. A threat and an expansively difficult challenge. But how? How can balloons conceivably do all of these fantastical and catastrophic things? How can balloons be so much like highly strange UFOs and yet also be so vastly more terrifying? What does a man called A.P. Strange have anything to do with this? Is there some tempestuous Tempestarius who is summoning these orbs from the clown realm and controlling them by controlling the very tempestuous weather itself? And how can I possibly prove any of this at all? Well, I am sorry to inflict this suspense upon you again, but like Pauline, we once again find ourselves hanging from a perilous cliff. This is where the balloon drops us, to find out the very worst threats, real documented threats that balloons have to offer. You'll have to wait. But please stay tuned for the third and final chapter of Balloons, a Flying Menace.